Alright, what's up, lovely YouTube people? I've missed you over the past couple days. Today, I just want to talk about something you already know. Your vote doesn't matter. It's election day. It does not matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter if you vote at all for the election, right? I don't vote personally, and if you don't know why, I'll tell you here in a minute. But I used to. I've never voted, and I'm glad I haven't. But I used to get into politics, right? And you can see that I got the old JFK wearing a Trump hat. And that's just because basic reasons, right? Trump isn't a politician and all that shit. It wasn't too long ago that I kind of bought into the shit that you see on TV. About 2 years, probably. But even then, I studied nonstop. So, let's get into this, why your vote doesn't matter. So, if we take a minute, we look at the process of these elections, the steps taken, all that, we can see many things in those steps that make your vote irrelevant. But I'm just going to touch on one, the most blatant and sorry excuse for legitimacy to date. There is nothing about this that is right, okay? And that says a lot. Unfortunately, this thing we're going to touch on was written into the Constitution from the beginning. Because at the time, the nation, right, it was 13 states, and it was just like a bunch of tribes, basically, and they did not trust the federal government. They wanted no part of it. They work through state governments, just like we should now, because the federal government doesn't exist and it's a corporation. But they didn't trust the government, the federal government. Imagine that. And they were loosely aligned. Everyone wanted different things. These 13 colonies, they're called, they weren't as interconnected as we are today. And it's almost funny how this thing works, and the fact that some people say that we should change things in the Constitution because it's so old and things weren't the same and all that type of shit, right? But they never talk about this. It's always talking about the Second Amendment. People don't need AR-15s. You know that argument? That argument is silly as shit. It's just 100% wrong, and it couldn't be more wrong. We need guns more now than we ever have. And if you know anything about the Second Amendment, you know why. We need guns right now more than we have ever needed guns, right? And the amendment is not about hunting. They say you don't need an AR-15 to hunt deer. That's not what that amendment's for. I'll give you this here. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The reason that that's in there, the reason that we have guns, is because even back then, they were aware of the possibility of corruption. And if and when it happens, we, as the people, right, we are obligated to shake things up, to remove those who are corrupt. I got a saying, right? I haven't said it in a long time, but the Founding Fathers didn't protest. They shot motherfuckers. That was it. That was it. Alright, so the point is, we have guns to stop the federal government from taking over. And any gun, any weapon made accessible to the United States military, the corporation, should be made accessible to the people to fight against the United States corporation. And we are obligated to. We have a responsibility to, otherwise we become slaves. You either fight or you become a slave. It's that simple. Sorry. There's no discussion need be had. It's really that simple. The amendment says for militia to overthrow the Fed if they become tyrannical, or state, whatever. Honestly, this is something that should have happened already. Already it should have happened. Let's hypothesize for a second. If the government becomes tyrannical and no one does anything about it, like the Patriot Act, all that shit, what happens? What happens if they get crazy and nobody does anything? The people become slaves and are eventually devoured. You see it happening right now. This is what's happening. So anyway, what I'm referring to as far as your vote doesn't matter is the Electoral College, right? I'm going to summarize. Long story short, you, the people, don't vote for a president. You vote for people to elect the president. And even that isn't true. 21 states, right, don't even have a rule. The Electoral College is a group of people that elect the president. 21 states don't even have a rule that says the elector has to vote the way the people voted, right? And if you vote to decide who the Electoral College is, how could that even be possible if the number of people in the Electoral College matches the number of representatives in your state? You get what I'm saying? It's crazy. The number of representatives that your state has is the number of electors your state has in the Electoral College. You're not choosing the president, and you're not choosing people to choose the president. Funny how that works, isn't it? And like I said, in 21 out of 50 states, the electors can vote any way they want, regardless of what you say. The elector doesn't have to do anything based on what the people voted for. If your entire state voted for one person, right? Let's say your entire state voted Biden. Your electors can vote Trump, and Trump gets it. How could your vote possibly matter? Right. How then does it matter if you wait in line for hours when your state already has a decided number of electors? The deciding factor is the number of representatives, and they vote how they feel, how they want to vote, right? Your vote doesn't matter. Winner takes all in every state except two. Maine and Nebraska are those two, right? So let's use my state, okay? My state has 100 representatives. Let's say they do this vote, right, for the election today. 51 vote red, 49 vote blue. If that's how it was, then it would be 100 voted red. Winner takes all. The number of these electors is already decided and is based on the state representatives. How does your vote matter? If the number of electors is already decided from each state, and those people are the people that vote for president, what is your vote for? Do you remember when Trump took office? Everybody started talking about the Electoral College. This is why. Hillary was more popular, right? That's what the people's vote is for, popularity. But popularity hasn't been a deciding factor in like 200 years. It hasn't mattered. If popularity is the deciding factor, we'd have been gone a long time ago. Because you don't get to know the real good people. The TV only shows you fucking criminals. Me too, I'm just saying. So, if popularity was the deciding factor, this nation would have went a long time ago. Here's this, though. This is an article I found. Damn it, I think it's from Business Insider. I forgot to get the source. Today, all states hold popular elections to determine how their electoral college votes will be allocated, right? We just went over this, but they aren't required to do so by the Constitution or federal law. You don't even have to vote. Your vote doesn't matter. It just said it right there. For much of America's early history, legislatures directly voted on how to appoint their electors without any input from the voters. I'm going to go and see exactly what years those were so you can see which presidents were put in by the government itself. You get what I'm saying? Now, please tell me why voting is something you need to do. I'll tell you why you shouldn't vote, though. Because there is a system, right? This government is in place. And we've gone over the nature of this system. It's a system of control. And I'll just keep that to a minimum during this little video here. So, this system, one whole system, it was created and it's broadcast as two sides opposing each other for control, but sharing a similar goal, okay? There's two sides that are fighting for the same thing, right? Anybody argue with that? That goal is unbridled control via smaller systems of control. It's the state having full power, and it gets that power by smaller systems of control, like TV programming, public education, those indoctrination in its many forms, all those things. Just little subconscious manipulations. A big one right now is they got the AI. They'll make an AI video, and then they'll fill the comments with AI chat. So when you see this video, right, and you go into it, and then you go look in the comments, all the comments are AI too. And it's only that whole video only exists to change the way that you think about something. It's insane. But the point I want to make is this. This system, this man-made system, it's corrupt and it's in place, and it convinces people that it's two sides fighting against each other, right? And if you know that, and then you go vote, you're ignorant as shit, right? And I don't mean that like name calling. I mean that literally based on the definition of the word. If you know that, and then you go vote, you are ignoring what you know to be true, and you're going against your own interests for a less than acceptable reason. And the thing is, no matter what the reason is, it isn't acceptable. You know that it's bullshit, and you're going to go feed into it. That's unacceptable. Voting at all, okay? This is why you shouldn't vote. Voting at all is consent to be governed by men, okay? Think of voting as a mark, right? I do this a lot because symbols are everything. If you drive a Mercedes-Benz, that is a mark. That means that you approve of what the shit that the Mercedes-Benz company does. Things mean things. Think of voting as a mark, right? And I do this a lot, like I said. What does voting mean? What is voting a mark of? It means that you approve of the system. If you're in the system, right? If you believe that this political system is real, and that Democrats are really against Republicans, and they both want different things, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge that they want the same thing, right? You can't say, oh no, they want completely different things. They want the same thing. So you choose a side, right? The one that your political philosophy aligns more with. It would seem to you, right, that you're doing what's right, and you're voting for the better person, and you're keeping the bad man out of power. But if you aren't attached, if you aren't part of one of those groups, and you look at the bigger picture, right, the left wing and right wing belong to the same bird. If you see that picture and you vote, you're agreeing that you agree with the system. Here's a good example of what I mean. This is something I want to talk about a lot because I think it's fucking pathetic, right? And not just on the part of this oppressive ass system that feeds on its own people, but on the part of the people who spent their entire life getting everything taken by this system, and now they're begging for fucking crumbs and don't get it. And what do? They just keep on begging. It's crazy. So, alright, there were people, right, on these stimulus update channels waiting on their stimulus check. And I go there, I find these channels, and I go to them, and I get in there on the comments, and I drop knowledge and information about the system and statutes and shit. And I do it so that to bring people comfort, right? Because if you're just waiting every day for a $1,200 check and you've been waiting for 8 fucking months now, you're not very happy. So I go in there and I try to give people the truth. The thing is, some of these people lost their jobs and have nothing. Like, I heard of a dude who has a wife and 3 kids and he's living in his friend's basement trying to survive. Like, that's fucking heartbreaking. Because of a lie. Propaganda. That's what it is, from the state-run media. Would anybody really argue that the government doesn't control the sources of media? Everything, even YouTube, all of it. The same ones who cost them their jobs, right? The same government and representatives that said everybody closed down because there's a virus that doesn't exist. Still, it's been almost a year, and I'm still running around doing the same shit I was doing before. They're the same ones that cost them their jobs, and they are now denying them the money that they themselves paid over years in taxes. People been working 40 years paying taxes every single fucking 2 weeks. Probably done put in close to $100,000 in taxes and can't get a $1,200 check out of their own money. When you vote, you're saying that you're okay with that. Why are they not getting the money that they're owed? Their money. Why? Because of a man-made process, right? Due process. Procedure. It's crazy. The president, right? The president has already said that he can executive order money. He could executive order it. Like that, no problem, right? And we know we're in a national emergency, so if anything gets done, it has to be executive order anyway. He can executive order the money to people so that they could live, right? And rather than just do it, he said, I'll do it right after he's elected. Now, on the other hand, old Joe said it's probably going to be February, right? So he's saying, fuck you for 4 more months. Figure it out on your own, even though you're literally funding his paycheck. I'm trying really hard to not get hyped up because this just makes me so mad. Joe's going to get in there and destroy everything. And by the time February rolls around, there's not going to be anywhere to give a stimulus check from, and there likely won't be anyone to give one to. So people who lost their jobs would have a full $1,200 to make it a full year. Right? They signed the checks in what? March, April? And he's talking about waiting until February? $1,200 in a year. Now, when you go and vote, right? And this isn't saying vote for one person or the other. What I'm saying is don't waste your fucking time. Figure your way on your own, right? Don't let the rules of this government interfere with how you get by. You don't have to listen to what this government says, period. When you make a decision, what the government says about it shouldn't be a factor at all. But when you go vote, whether you vote for Joe or Trump, you're saying, yes, I agree what's happening to these people is fair and I support it. That's what voting is. It means you approve of the whole system, right? You can't vote and say, oh, I only agreed with this part, and this part, but I'm not for that. If you vote, you're for all of it. That's probably the only reason people are still even allowed to vote. It's really absurd. So, about that Second Amendment, right? That's what we need. It's a revolution. I wouldn't even call it that, but there's a quote from, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, probably not. And it's something about politics is like a dirty diaper. It needs to be changed often and for the same reason. Because they both become full of shit. And that's exactly what needs to happen. People need to stop waiting around for a check right? So, if fucking they eat the gaslighting, because that's what all of it is. You think Nancy Pelosi's whole ice cream thing was an accident or she just doesn't know? No, it's called gaslighting. She wants you to get really upset and do something about it. And the thing is, if enough people don't do something about it at the same time, they're just going to get knocked down. Individuals stand up all the time and they get fucking hammered down like the nail. The nail that stands up is the one that gets hammered. All the nails need to stand up. Alright, let's see. What we need is the revolution, right? And their goal is to get that, right? But what they want is a civil war where some people kill off some people, the remaining people are easier to control, likely of the same mindset, easier to manipulate, that kind of thing. And that's what they're propagating, right? They've talked about it from the beginning. They got shit on the news, like when I go through YouTube, I see they're boarding up businesses, and when they're boarding up businesses ahead of the election because of the shit that's going to happen or could happen. What really bothers me, right? Walmart said we're going to stop selling guns and ammo because we don't want violence to happen because of the election, right? And in this video, it says Walmart stopped selling it because they were afraid people would steal it. It's not about people. It's not about keeping people safe. It's about profit. That's what it's always about. That's what this government does. If it has to devour 16 families to get paychecks, then they're going to be devoured. It's a fucking beast. Alright. What we need is, we need shit done. Right? We need shit done. We need the entire system thrown out, right? And even if we found a man that was perfect and he wasn't corruptible and all that type of shit, right? You can't take a moral man and put him into an immoral, corrupt system and expect him to change it. It was made to do this. We need to throw the entire system out. Let me tell you a little more, okay? Mitch McConnell's wife. We all know Mitch McConnell, I'm sure. His wife owns a shipping company based in China worth $1.9 billion, with a B, billion dollars. Now, a while back, around 2014, 2015, one of the shipping containers on the barge, right? One of the shipping containers got caught going down the Ohio River, like 10 blocks from my house. And it had, they said 17 or 19 tons of cocaine on it. Right? And that's real. You can look it up. So what happened is his in-laws took the rap for it. They said it was ours and we were shipping it. And if I had to guess, right, I tried to get in and see what the final verdict was on this, but it wouldn't let me. I got the error 504 page. But if I had to guess, right, I'd say they got a fine, and the total amount of that fine was about 1/4 of the profits from the cocaine. Because the government doesn't give a fuck what they do. As long as it gets its cut, it's a beast. And Mitch McConnell's wife owns the shipping company, right? Now, when this corona shit first happened and they started writing checks to fucking every corporation that there is, Mitch McConnell's family got $350,000 in loans. Yeah, because they need it with a $1.9 billion company that gets tax money from China and America. And it ships cocaine from country to country. That's what a vote says, yeah, that's okay. Why the fuck would anybody vote? The government, right? They just want their cut. That's what it always is. They'll fucking let a murderer go if he can pay his fines. But if you're poor and you're slinging some pot to somebody, they're going to keep you in jail because they make more money off of you that way. And that's why real crooked people get out, because they pay their fines and shit. And petty people that do petty shit get stuck in jail forever because it's all about money. So, again, when you go vote, you're saying that you agree with it. The whole system, the people that are elected, their behavior, all of it. When you vote, you're saying everything they did, every war, you're okay with. Voting means you do not wish to govern yourself. You do not wish to be governed by your creator. You want to be ruled by a king, a man. That's what voting is. A few little things I want to add here to further the point that voting is irrelevant. But I want to go bigger again, right? We started this from left wing, right wing, and then we backed out, and we're going to back out again, expand as we go. There's a cycle, right? And this is the cycle of the lives of nations, right? And this is measured across time, okay, on a chart, right? We got the L chart, time, and then prosperity, okay? And it goes like this, right? It's just a hump. And this is about nations. This is how they begin and end. It begins with a new order, okay? New order is America. America was founded. And then over time, the peace and prosperity went up. So, the new world that leads to peace and prosperity and growth of debt, right? Because that's what it is. It's all fucking Roman. And in my opinion, right, America's golden hour here was 1800 to 1999. Once the year 2000 came, it was all downhill. Awesome times then, though. So, it rises up, peace and prosperity, and then the debt begins to bubble, and the gap between the poor and the rich gets further and further. It widens, right? And this is the end of prosperity. So we're at the top of the hump. And then the bubble pops, right? Everybody's got to pay their debts, and banks are crashing, and what the fuck ever. And the economy takes a downturn, right? So now we're going down. I'd assume this is the area where society declines into immoral behavior and depravity and all that stuff. So, to counter this, right? To counter this societal and economic downturn, they begin to print excessive money, which is debt, and credit cards and all that shit, which doesn't help. It hasn't yet. And the collective mind is already immoralized and depreciated, and that will continue. It will continue to decline until the death of that generation. So, when all this happens, the poor and the rich are so far divided that they begin to revolt, and they start internal wars, civil wars, movements, all that shit, in an attempt to take back what was taken from them. Their freedom, their prosperity. The poor outnumber the wealthy, millions to one. So, the government, the rich people, the corporations, they are forced to restructure politically and redistribute the debt, and then they reshape everything, the political landscape. Once this happens, right, in that redistribution and reshaping, a new order is created. Cycle begins again. That's where we're at. The restructuring. The debt is being transferred and redistributed right now. Unfortunately, it's being redistributed to basically the same people that had it before, while the middle class has ceased to exist. In the past 8 months, the 7 most wealthy Americans, Mark Zuckerberg being one of them, has gotten $250 billion richer. $250 billion richer. All the money that everybody's not getting, the richest people in the country are getting. It's crazy. But that's where we're at. Poor people have for a long time been getting tired of the way things are. What I wonder is this knowledge, right, about the way that societies are born and die This is ancient, right? They've known this for a long, long time. Especially the people who are high up in society, right? Men of renown, the Nephilim. They're still a thing. It applies to now just as much as it applied to then. They are the men of renown, high in society. Those people know about this. How many times has this happened already? Right? It's likely it's numerous, more than could be counted by a person like me or you, unless it's documented. All of those are recorded though by someone, obviously, right? And that's these modern day Nephilim, the ones that have access to records from the UN and shit like that. It's all recorded and they know how this works, right? And so I say the fall, right, of Romerica here, where we're at, has been planned. Everybody knew that. It's been planned and it has been accelerated. This right here, what we're going through here, is a controlled fall. Definitely believe it. It's not a coincidence that both of the people that are running for president have sexual aggressive related charges leveraged against them. No matter who you vote for, you're voting for somebody that is basically, if they were poor, they'd be a convicted sex offender. Period. No discussion. Trump settled out of court. Otherwise, right, we know that you don't even have to commit a crime. You can still be accused of sexually aggressive behavior towards a woman and get charged for it. So, no matter how you want to look at this, you're voting for someone who would have been convicted of sexual offenses or someone who would have been convicted of sexual offenses. Really? Wow. Alright, so this is planned, accelerated, right? The riots that are happening, BLM, Antifa, those are all infiltrated and they are kindled by falsehoods, right? You know these groups say the dumbest shit, right? If you go to BLM and you say, bro, all life matters, they get mad at you because whatever fucking reason. That's ignorance. You can just remove the color and say life matters, because it's not just people life, it's anything that is alive has a spark of divinity. It's the God of the living. It's in all things living. So, life matters. The debt. So we got the riots going on, right? We see the debts being redistributed to people who don't need it. I gave an example already. Mitch McConnell's family has a company worth $1.9 billion, right? He got $350,000, while the people who paid for that $350,000 are struggling and hoping for $1,200, right? You see what I mean? It's fucking pathetic. The fall of this nation is being guided, right? They've looked at what's happened to the nations in the past that were born and died, and they are guiding this one to a nice death. So the nation that is born from it is the society that the wealthiest of the wealthy desire. You get what I'm saying? They know that this nation's going down, and they're going to help take it down so it lands, right, like a plane flying. They're going to land it where they want, so that the society that comes next is one where they'll be on top. This society, right? Personally, I think that this has happened so many times that what they're hoping on is they build a new society from the ashes of America that doesn't fall, and they can reign over the poor indefinitely without anything or anyone to check their power. So go vote, right? I want to make a personal statement, right? Maybe it's just me. I don't think it is, though. I think there's almost everybody. I would rather rough it out in the winter right now, in rough terrain, like as men used to do, right? I'd rather go back to the fucking 1800s, not the 1600s, because that's where they're going. I'm trying to go to early America times, right? Freedom. That's what I want. Freedom and wisdom. But I would rather go rough it out in winter in the wilderness, right? Like people used to do, than be part of this society. I swear I would. It's garbage. And it kills me, right? To see people that I love, which is everybody, they're preyed upon by the very thing that they depend on. That's so interesting. Oh, that's so interesting. If the Vatican claims that it's responsible for guiding souls to heaven, right? And Jesus said he will not be the one to accuse us before God. That will be Moses, on whom you have set your hopes. And the thing that people have set their hopes on is this government that is ultimately ruled by the Vatican. Could Moses, who delivered the law, the ceremonial law as well, be equivalent to the Vatican? Interesting, isn't it? That was just rambling. Sorry. I'd rather find 100 people, right? 100 like-minded people who want the good for everyone and have a sense of community and as little immorality as possible, and go build a simple community to live away from this beast society that devours its own people. Right now they sucked all the money up and they're giving it to their fucking friends. But when this happens, right, when people do this and they actually get 100, 200 people and they go build a free community, the fucking Fed shows up and harasses them, right? Tell you can't do that. They're nobody's boss. But then the media paints them as a Satanist cult or some crazy shit. And this has happened a few times already. It's disgusting. And then the average person who doesn't really know better trusts so deeply in this system that they believe it's true, that there's really a death cult out in the woods living peacefully, which of course the news wouldn't show you that. It's crazy. The world is not supposed to be this way. That was my first conscious thought as I came into consciousness at like 9, 10 years old. I'm on 10th and Central, 1004 to 818, 2 blocks down the street at my grandma's house. My grandma raised me. She was Catholic. But I looked over at Cincinnati and I looked around and all these buildings, and it was weird. It was like, this ain't supposed to be like this. But that was my first conscious thought. The ones who are Democrat and Republican and they believe in this system, they are so zoomed in to this system that they can't see the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Some escape that left-right thing, and then they get caught up in Illuminati versus the government, right? And then some escape that and get somewhere else where it's always one side versus the other, and there's so many fucking layers to this. So people don't get out. This is what my friend Matt at Quantum of Conscious would call animal farms. It's an animal farm. You escape the animal farm and then you see this nice meadow over there, and you go over there and you start grazing in the info over there, and then you realize it's another animal farm. It's just got a bigger fence. It's the same exact thing. Regardless, your vote doesn't matter at all. But I still love you guys. Peace out.